Hi, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for joining me today for another flow. Today we are continuing our series and dive into the Yamas and Niyamas with the second Yama. So if you're looking for the first one, which is non-violence, you can go ahead and watch my last video. To continue the series, we're going to be talking about truthfulness, Satya. So when we talk about truthfulness, Satya quite honestly means to express what is, basically, or in shorter terms, it is what it is. What is just is. So truth is. There's a difference between our own personal truth and universal truth. Universal truth, the sky is blue. Universal truth. Universal truth is not our own truths, our opinions, that were created through our own unique human experiences and lenses, because everyone's truths are different. So expressing truth is expressing our own inner truth from our voice and using our voice to do so. So a lot of the poses today are going to be focused on the heart chakra, the throat chakra. It's not the hardest. The throat chakra. So when we talk about the throat chakra, we're talking about finding our inner voice and the ability to communicate it, even though it may be scary, which it absolutely can be, or nerve-wracking. It's always important that we express our inner truth, because when we do that, we show up for ourselves in our most authentic ways, and we let other people know about important parts of ourselves that include boundaries, how we can be loved our best, how people can show up to support us the very best. So there's nothing bad that comes from being able to step powerfully into expressing our truth, and that is the theme of today's flow. So without further ado, this is beginner level. This is friendly to all levels. If you have blocks or a strap, you can grab those at this time. 10 minutes about, and we will get started as soon as I pluck that dog hair off my leg. So we're going to be starting in our easy pose. Seated, grounded, all four corners down into the mat. I'm actually going to start by facing the long edge of my mat. So once we're here, let's sit up nice and tall. Take a nice roll through the shoulders, pulling them back, the shoulder blades down towards the lower part of the back. Seated nice and tall, breathe in through the nose. Cleansing breath out through the mouth. Good, very good. Let's take just a gentle little stretch to begin. So we're going to drop the left ear to the left shoulder, like so. Again, still sitting nice and tall, not allowing the shoulders to round forward towards the chest. Imagining pulling the chest maybe forward slightly towards the top of the mat. Just a couple breaths here. If you find your shoulders are shrugged up towards the ears, again, take that nice posture to pull those shoulder blades down towards the back. And then you can inhale, and when you inhale, bring the neck up. Start taking some neck rolls here. Going towards the left side, just take 3 rounds of neck rolls. Nice and slow, and then when you get back to neutral position, take a nice big inhale. Exhale, drop the right ear to the right shoulder. And again, just check in with the shoulders. Make sure we're not pulling them up and they're tense. Making sure we're rolling them back if we're noticing that they're pulled up and towards our ears. Now during this flow, I'm going to cue you quite often to find truth in your body and honor it. So what that may look like is taking a variation when a pose doesn't feel super great on a certain part of the body and acknowledging it. So stepping into truth and then acting on it to honor your own voice, basically. Honor your body's own needs. When we practice both, we're practicing both of the yamas. So we're showing up in our truth, and he'll come up, take those neck rolls here. We're showing up in our truth, and then by taking variations or choosing to talk to ourselves in a way that's a little bit kinder, we are choosing nonviolence. So as we go through this series, you'll kind of notice that we're starting to incorporate all the yamas into our practice, and then see how that can be incorporated into our lives. So coming back to a neutral position, let's bring the hands to prayer pose. And as we inhale, let's bring them all the way up overhead. If you're able, let's interlock the fingers, flip the palms up, big breath in here. And let's exhale, dip it over to the right hand side. Getting a nice side body stretch through the left side of the body. Inhale, come back up. And then when we exhale this time, flip the palms so the palms are facing down towards the body. And as you exhale, round, contract through your spine as you pull the palms away and the hands away from the body. Nice stretch through the upper body here. Inhale to come back up. Exhale to dip over to the left this time. Very good. If interlocking your fingers is difficult, by the way, something you can always do is use a strap or a belt to kind of shorten the distance that your hands need to travel in order to meet. All right, so that's always an option. Inhale to come up. Let's bring the palms back to prayer. Exhale, bring them right down to heart center. Take a nice deep inhale as we bring the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers or use a strap. Once more, pull up and away from the tailbone as we exhale to dive here, trying to keep the sit bone grounded towards the mat. So if you can't dive super far or fold super far, that's fine. Holding here, just 2 deep breaths. Good, big inhale here. Exhale to release the fingers directly out in front of you. Press up to come up onto the fingertips. And then we're going to rock up and bring ourselves to sit on our calves. If this is difficult for you, a couple ways you can do it. You can take a block on the second highest setting, slide it under the pelvis and under the sit bone, take a seat that way. Or you can also take a pillow, a bolster if you happen to have one, place it right under so that way you have a seat if sitting directly on the legs is not super comfortable for you. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a thunderbolt pose here. So once we're in whatever variation of thunderbolt that we're going to be comfortable in, again, seated nice and tall, shoulders roll back, nice straight spine here, hands come to prayer. Take a nice deep cleansing breath. Very good. Let's inhale, bring hands up overhead. And then as we exhale, let's fold again like we did previous. Trying to keep our legs on the mat, or on our hips, our thighs on our legs, on our calves. Coming down into child's pose, nice and extended here. Kind of taking a flow. So when you inhale, what I want you to do is round through the spine, let the fingers kind of drag, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae, hands come up, inhale up, exhale to fold. Sliding those hands to the mat. Inhale here, exhale, roll. Inhale, hands up. Exhale to roll. Down, inhale here. Exhale, roll it on up, inch by inch, and then bring those hands straight back to prayer. Very well done. From here, take a nice big inhale as we release. The hands coming into a tabletop, but we're not staying in tabletop. This is just a transition. From here, we're gonna bring the knees to the width of the mat, big toes touch. Exhale to send the hips back towards the feet, sliding a block directly under the pelvis or a pillow or bolster if you'd like. Again, showing up in truth for ourselves and honoring our needs, practicing truthfulness and nonviolence. Anyway, coming into a wild child's pose here. Resting the head on the mat. If that's not super comfortable for you, you can use a pillow, and you can also fold one arm on top of the other. Rest the head that way, holding here just 2 breaths. Very good. Taking a kind of another spinal roll, let's lift up through our fingers, rock forward, and as we do so, round through the spine, send the feet directly back, come down into a cobra here. So from here, we're just in a little bit of a cobra pose, holding just a couple breaths. I'll remind you here at any point to honor your truth and to be honest about how poses feel within the body, how variations feel, how you feel in today's practice. Not allowing ourselves to dilute our feelings or dilute our truth, but rather acknowledging how we feel in this very moment, how we feel on our mat, and how we feel in our body, all right? Let's exhale, bring it down to the mat, and take our first downward facing dog. So we're going to tuck toes, lift through the hips, sending them straight up and back as if someone is pulling us by a thread towards the ceiling. Hands are rooted down into the mat, slightly gripped, and if you need a slight bend in the knees, that's totally fine. Bringing that chest towards the knees. If it helps to have some blocks under the hands in this down dog, you can absolutely do that. You can also, if your heels aren't touching the ground, which they don't need to be, but if it would feel better to have a little bit more support, you can roll the back of your mat up to place it under the heels to give you that little bit more support. We're going to get straight into it, so we're going to take a nice deep inhale here. And on the exhale, let's guide the right foot in between the hands to come into this runner's lunge here. Once we're in our runner's lunge, you can, if you'd like, use a block for this next part. We're coming into triangle. So using our block, we're going to turn the back toes to face almost parallel to the side of the mat, but my toes are pointed almost towards the left-hand corner of my mat. From here, my right hand is going to stay on this block, and as I extend my right leg, I extend my right hand. Once done, left hand comes up, above, trying to stack one shoulder above the other one, looking upwards towards my left hand if able. If this is a little difficult for you, you can bring that hand behind the back or to the hip. You also don't have to keep your stance super wide. Feel free to adjust this back leg to bring it in a little bit closer if you need. Otherwise, we're just going to hold here. And then without a block, of course, hand can come just to the outside of the mat, even onto the fingertips if that's comfortable for you. Very good. As we exhale, let's bend back into that front leg, frame that front leg with the hands, runner's lunge, and then walk ourselves to the long edge of our mat in this wide-legged forward fold, okay? Once we're here, hands are going to come to the feet or the ankles, and we're just going to allow the body to fold here. You can round through the back slightly if you'd like. And again, your stance does not have to be super wide, and if this is uncomfortable for you, you can bring some blocks into the center to use them to come up a little bit more. Again, reminding ourselves that we stand firmly in our own truth and honor it always. Good. Bring the fingers to the center of the mat. Inhale to come up. Walk the hands to the bottom of the mat, coming into a runner's lunge here. Let's turn those back toes. Get ready to take that triangle once more. So back toes are pointing to about the right-hand corner of the mat, roughly. Left hand is on the outer left side of the foot. Straighten that left leg. Fingers come up or utilize your block. Right hand comes up, looking up at that right hand, holding here. Imagine taking the ribs and wrapping them up and towards the back, towards the spine. Good. Bend back into that knee. Use the hands to frame. Turn the back toes forward, runner's lunge. Good. From here, we are going to step that foot back. Bring the right foot back in between, and then come into a wide-legged forward fold facing the other side of the mat. So once we're here, coming back into whatever variation is comfortable, honoring the truth of our body and what our body may need, holding this wide-legged forward fold, 3 deep breaths. Good. Bring hands back to center, lift up, walk the body back to the top of the mat. The left foot is now in between the hands, and then on the next exhale, let's step it back, come into a plank pose. So pressing into the top of the feet, shoulders are over the elbows, over the wrists. We are not allowing our pelvises to dip down. We are trying to keep them in line with the spine. Hold here, and then exhale, lower. Untuck the toes, press to lift up. Exhale, lower back down, tuck the toes, lift. Coming back into our downward facing dog. And gently bring the knees to the width of the mat, send the hips back. Child's pose. Take a couple nice, deep, cooling breaths here to acknowledge the work that you've done. And in keeping with the theme of truthfulness, I'll ask you to think on the flow that we just did. And see or notice if you allowed yourself to honor your truth. So were there poses that you took that you truly felt good in and acknowledged? Were there poses that maybe you asked yourself to stay in, even though they weren't super comfortable for the body or caused pain? And were there times where you acknowledged a pose caused you pain and took a variation, or seated instead? So just think back on that for a couple breaths before we jump into our final poses. Acknowledging that if we don't stand firm in our truth and speak our truth, no one else will do it for us. It is totally up to us. And while that can be scary, it's also empowering to know that only we can speak our truth and act on it. Let's lift up through the fingertips, bring the body in forward, and come to take a seat. Now when we take this seat, let's take a little bit of a hip stretch here. So we're just going to dog hair all over my mat. Bring the soles of the feet to touch. Hands around the feet, imagining using the body to press the knees down towards the mat, or if you'd like a deeper stretch, you can use the elbows to press the knees further down towards the mat. If this is a little bit much for you, you can take blocks under either knee and use that to help keep them in a place where they are not falling more open and causing you discomfort. Okay, so just a couple breaths here. Good, one last breath in this posture. Very good, inhale to come up, bring the knees together, and let's face the long edge of our mats. And before we come into a Shavasana and finish our practice, let's inhale, kick the feet up, bring the knees into the chest, wrap around, take a nice deep exhale as we bring them in closer to our chest and hold here. Just a couple breaths. Starting to return to our natural rhythm of breathing. Beginning to feel relaxation after our practice. And on the inhale, you can release the hands, allow the feet to fall down towards the bottom of the mat, palms facing upwards to the sky, coming to our corpse pose, preparing for Shavasana. Now if that is uncomfortable for you, you can bring the feet to the width of the mat, let the knees fall into each other to support the lumbar spine just a little more. And you can also take this Shavasana seated. So as we prepare to come into Shavasana, let's invite the eyes to close very gently, checking the body for any tension as we've done from the beginning of class. And making sure we're not willingly holding on to any. Keeping the eyes closed, allowing our breath to return to that natural rhythm. Let's think back on today's practice and think back to any times we showed up for ourselves in truth and honored our needs, just in today's practice. think about how it felt to honor your needs and honor your truth and stand firmly in it. And as I leave you, I'd like to imagine or ask you to imagine what it would look like if you were to step that powerfully into your own voice in your own personal life. You don't have to go super deep into it, but just briefly imagine what it could be like and what could change, what could be different if you vocalized your own needs out into the world and your own truth. I will leave you with that thought for just a couple moments while we finish today's practice, and I will let you know when it's time to come up. You may gently begin to invite consciousness back into the body, and for this next portion of the class, you can choose to remain lying down or bring yourself up to a seat. I will allow you to choose. To finish today's practice, we are going to take a mudra. We are going to take a mudra for the throat chakra. So we're going to take our hands and interlace our fingers together as we rest the tips towards the inside of the palms. Once here, thumbs. We're going to touch together, and we're going to invite that energy right about our belly button and our navel. Once here, we're going to take a nice deep breath in and exhale. Good. We will finish today's chant class with the chant of Om. Inhaling. On the inhale, we begin by inhaling, and we will exhale to chant, okay? So nice deep inhale. Exhale to chant. Om. Release the hold of the fingers, bringing palms to heart center as we bow forward. Namaste. Thank you so much for flowing with me today. It was a pleasure. It's definitely stuttering over my own words today, stepping into my truth, which means that it's something I need to do a little bit more often. So, just things to note. I love you so much, and I cannot wait to see you next time for the next flow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.